Stay ready.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, you go.
Hi, my name is Helena Ortiz-Smith, and I am originally from Harlem, New York City. Back in my days, when rap really had started coming out, I was young, maybe um, 10, 11, 12 years old. And the first time that we actually heard rap on the radio was the Sugar Hill Gang song, Rapper's Delight. And that was our song. We were excited because before then, we always heard rap on the street. In the summertime, all we did was go to different parks or we were out on the street and they had the turntables, and that's how we heard our rap. People like the Sugar Hill Gang, Grandmaster Flash, LL Cool J. We would see every borough did something different. Well, the boroughs are Manhattan, the Bronx, Staten Island, Brooklyn, and Queens. So I was from Harlem, and that's in Manhattan. And when we would go out, we would be out and they would have the turntables outside, and that's how we would see the rappers. Back in our days, we didn't have social media. So how did we know who was going to come out? We had flyers. And we get a flyer and it would tell us who all would be there. And the flyers, I always kind of wondered how did everybody get the flyers. So if you were in the Bronx, if you were in Brooklyn, whatever borough were in, you would get the flyers from that borough and the other boroughs, and that's when then you would decide where you wanted to go. Um, I was always outside. We would be there, their turntable. The first time I saw LL Cool J, who wasn't really big LL Cool J at the time, my cousin lived in Queens, and I went LL Cool J and Run DMC before they were on the radio, and but they would be out at the parks, and that's the first time I saw them. We were at the parks, and they were just regular out there on the turntables rapping. And then the next thing I know, they're big stars. And it was amazing because we would, before they were big stars, they were just outside in the parks, um, just outside. It was like we would go outside and they were there. I lived in a project that in Manhattan, in New York, projects are a little bit different than the rest. And I lived in what was called King Towers, where it was a big basketball court. And before they started playing the basketball, the local game, we would have the turntables out and we're out dancing, we're listening to music. When I say we had the best time, we had the best time. As I started getting older, they started having more stuff in different clubs. And back in New York, we had this club called Randy's Place. We had a club. We used to go to the PAL. And the same way, they would hand out flyers, and we would come and we would be there. And then they started doing the rapping indoors. Around that time is about the time that they started to get on the radio. And the Sugar Hill Gang, they were on the radio. Grandmaster Flash on the radio. And this is still way before they, well, way before they started getting famous. But they would still play at the local clubs at that time, or just different party venues like the PAL. Anybody from New York City that's from Harlem, they as soon as I say these names, everybody remembers us all being out there going there. Um, and that it was always funny how many people would be there and got the flyers. You all have social media, which is even faster, but we literally had paper flyers and they were giving them out, and we would get them. And that's how we would decide what party we would go to that weekend. Um, we had, yeah, we just went out. That's how we did. That's how we got to see the rappers. And this is really still way before they were on TV. They were on the radio. Like I said, once we got older and once they started getting on the radio, then they would just be at the local parties. They wouldn't be too much at the parks because now they're famous, and famous people can't just be at the parks. Then you have to have security and all that stuff. But before they became famous, and that's how we did in New York City and Harlem. Is how rap became famous to us. Little did we know, we thought we were like the head of everything. Little did we know that the East Coast, I mean, West Coast and everybody else was doing the same thing. I remember way back, I can't even think, way back when, it wasn't Snoop Dogg. It was probably like Dr. Dre, and they came to our side of town. So they are from the West Coast in California. And I remember a group of rappers coming to New York. I believe it was Dr. Dre, and they were out there with us. Once again, this is a little before they became Dr. Dre and all these other rappers like Jay Z and stuff. They were little boys. They were probably babies back in that time. They probably weren't even born when all of this was happening. Um, and that's all I have to say is that I'm living. I was there. I remember Rakim. I remember the Treacherous Three, Grandmaster Flash, LL Cool J, Kumo D. We had these real specific DJs like DJ Hollywood that would be out there. Like I said, we started out in the parks. We were outside, and then as they got more famous, then they started to get indoors. And that is my part of life with hip hop and rap. Um, I remember the B boys when they were spinning around on the floor in the Bronx. They didn't do a whole lot of that in Manhattan. That came later. But I remember going to my cousin's house in the Bronx, and we were outside, and they were doing all the break dancing and all that stuff. And like I said, this was way back, way before they started getting famous. We were doing this we were outside. When I look back and saw like Treacherous 3 and I was looking at the dates, it said 1978. I'm like, what? It was going on way before that. I was younger, but it was definitely going on before then. The dates that they have, yeah, I'm that old, and that's all I have to say.